Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. Well, it's coming into the holidays between Thanksgiving and Christmas time, depending on when you're watching this, but what I want to do is a bunch of small paintings. So here's a really small painting here, not a small painting, but a smaller board painting. And I'm going to do, like what I'm going to do here is a beach scene, I'm going to do a landscape scene, I'm going to do a couple florals, maybe a bird, some smaller paintings that'll make great gifts for Christmas, but also is going to allow us to practice some of the techniques and especially the art of seeing, what I call the art of seeing the depth and everything that we need to do, practice our edges, our tones, and the techniques that we use to capture some of these. Really great, fun, fast painting practices, okay? So you're going to see a wide variety of these coming up in the next few days. But anyway, let's get into it, okay? So this one is about, I think it's right around 14 inches or so here. And the width of it is about 8, let me see. Yeah, it's 8 inches, so it's about 8.5. And it is about 14, almost 14 inches. 13 inches exact to this way and stuff. And it's just, what I did is I just took some end cuts. Now you can use 8.5 by 11. Anything will work, okay? I just took some end cuts of some of the wood I have. I gave it a coat of the canvas prep medium and sanded it lightly with 180 grit sandpaper. That's where I like to go. And we'll get right into the painting. So the first thing I'm going to do is establish my horizon line. And this is just a blurry little photo that I have. And the horizon line's here crooked. And I don't want to do that. I want to set it up. And I don't like to set the horizon line right exactly at halfway. So I am going to raise it up just a bit. Now, the ocean there's slightly a blue-violet, so I'm just going to take an old brush here, a little bit of Phthalo Blue, and a little bit of my Quinacridone Violet. Now, this is the colors that you see here. These are the Heritage MultiMedia acrylics. I know I get a lot of questions from people. Is this oil paint? Do you paint in oils? No. Heritage MultiMedia acrylic is all that I have used for the last 17 years of painting. Okay, it's all I use now. It's a formula that I developed back in 2008, and I love it. I can slow it down to hours drying time or speed it back up, and so that's what you learn from my channel as I show you how to use these, but it's only with acrylic. Now, some of these techniques that I do work with oils and stuff as well, and some other brands of acrylics, but you have to test. So I have these colors. These are ones that I normally use out here on this channel. I try to limit it so that you can, as you start your painting journey with me, you can use just a limited number of color and paint hundreds of paintings. I did add out the out here, which is called the medium white. Whenever I paint oceans and beach scenes, I do like the medium white. That is just white, a little burnt umber, and a little bit of yellow oxide. So if you don't have it, you can make it. Now first, let's come in about a little over halfway up. Let's go up. So I want, and I'm going to set it equal. So what I have is my own little painting square here that I made. Got it right from the Home Depot here, and I just took it, cut the ruler off, and then screwed it in on one side over here. I'm going to come up right about in here. I want to have a little bit of room for the sky, and then I'll just set that down like that, and that'll set my horizon line there. And I will want to adjust that. Now I'm going to paint as much as possible, big brushes, quick motion. I want to do a lot of impressionistic techniques, fun techniques. These are things that are great to practice, okay? So let's go in and let's set the sky. I'll take a little bit of my phthalo, some white here. This is extender medium. This is the extender medium I use to thin out and to increase the drying time. So I'm going to add a little extender medium here. I want just a touch of violet in that, I think. And I want this to start out fairly light. So I'm going to adjust this, and I'm going to paint really casual here. So as you can see, I'm going to get close to that. It could be a little lighter. And I want to color this. See these variations in here? I want this color variation in here because I like that, because it adds atmosphere to my painting. So I'm going to add just a little more violet. Let's go a little more white and a little more violet here. And let's come right down by that horizon. That is actually the color of that right there, really close here. But I want to whisper that in there. And then I'll turn the brush on its edge. I like to pull the brush on its edge. And I'm going to make a very casual right down into that line, just a bit. Now I put that line on with just water and it'll dry fairly quickly. This will stay wet, but I want, because I'm going to do some clouds, I think, in here too. But so I can go over that line a bit if I want to. I'll still be able to see it. So that gives a good start to that. Now, let's put in a little bit of our ocean. Now, I also want to, I'm pretty sure thinking here, I want to expand the beach a little bit. So I might drop the dune down just a bit, expand the beach just a bit here so I can get a little bit more of a light, warm color here. We'll see here. So I'm going to take and I'm going to add, let's just use some extender. Extender, I think, this out here is the open medium. This is the Derivan open medium. So when I go to paint the dunes and stuff, I'll use that. What I do is I use extender anytime I want to. They both slow down the drying time, open medium and extender. But I use extender when I want it to be thin, and I use open medium when I want it to be thicker. So generally with shadows and colors like here in the water and stuff like that, or the first part of my painting, I like to start out thin and then I make it thicker as I get going, okay? So let's add some, I got a little bit of that, a little bit of the Quinacridone Violet. You could use the red violet, but whoops, touched into that, getting a little too casual. Touched into that medium white there. I'll add some extender here, right? And I'm going to use this. I'll pull right up by that line there, right up like that. This is a 1 inch, this is an old 1 inch Fusion flat. I use the Fusion brushes. Let's bring this in at that slight angle here. Slight angles to the beach here, right like that. And I'm going to leave some of the color streaks in there. So this is going to be a real quick little painting. Let's go a little darker, just a little more color, and especially where it's going to go up along the water line. And let's just streak some of that through because that's just going to get some interest in there. But I want to leave, I'll pinch, this is called pinch wiping. I pinch wipe the brush, removes the extra paint and the moisture. I don't rinse it in water because then I add a fast drying thing in there. And I'm going to come back with just a little bit of light to lighten up along my horizon line here. Just a bit, pulls through just a bit there. Got it a little dark there, so a little light, so I'll just add a little more color. And that helps the distance. So if you want a lot of distance, your horizon line and your sky, so this is the horizon line, have to come together. If I take this, either a dry brush or I take this one, let's just reach over here and maybe find a little bit, even my big brush here, softer brush. And if I pull across this big old soft brush, and if I pull across this just to blur this and do it a couple times here, I'll blur this off and I'll add even more distance there. And if I go over here and make a little bit of a mistake, I can take that back off. Sometimes I just run my finger along that as well. And you can tell as the more I blur it, the more distance that it's getting back through there. So I kind of like that. All right, so let's keep going, keep going, keep going, keep moving. You know, we don't want to get bogged down by stuff here. Bogged down. So I'm thinking right in here, I'm going to put these cooler colors and then I'm going to put a warmer color back in through there. So I'm going to just leave the blue in my brush. I'm going to grab some of this medium white and increase the yellow, maybe a little bit of white. Increase the yellow in it. I want this just a bit thicker, so this time I'm going to add some of the open medium, and I'm going to come right in here along the that edge that's going to be right there of that nice warm kind of beach color, a little warmer than what you see in the photo there. Maybe over here I will add just some medium white and this, not quite as much yellow. Let's just pull, and see it's thicker here. So I'll pull through A little bit of blue in my brush comes out, which is great. Now, what I'm going to do is bring those together, because when water comes together, water comes over, you get a transparency of the beach and the water together. So I'm going to pinch wipe my brush a little bit here, and I'm just going to start running these two together, and this is what's going to give me my transparency of my water line there. See? I'll wipe if I get too much blue or something in it. I'll wipe here. Now what I love to do, this is where I'll set that brush down. When I'm painting quick, I love to do the knife. And so I love this look of the knife. Just take some thicker paint and pull it through. Don't worry about little things like that, you know, because what I do is just wipe my knife and I push into that, push flat. This is what I call burnishing. So I push the knife flat. Sometimes I even push my finger on it, and that does the blending, what I call, it incorporates the color, the burnishing, right in there of the color. And that gives you just so much quick little interest along the beach if you don't move it too much. So I'm going to add a few little doses of some of this white light right in there like that. See, right across, right like that. I can take my hand and blur some of that if I want to, just like that, so you get this beautiful look of this transition of this beach. Now, up through here, you see it's getting some of the blues, and it's getting some of the cooler shadow colors, because light's coming this way. This is a cast shadow. So, you know, let's establish some of that. So I like that look. Now, normally, also with this, you could come in here real quick and establish. Matter of fact, let's do that. And just establish it quickly. Let's establish some of the water, some of the waves. We have two real values. You have a little bit of real light, and then you have this softer one. So the softer one's going to be right down in here. And I'm going to do it with open medium. Mix in almost an equal amount of open medium, a little bit of white, maybe a touch of medium white. This will make a low white. We don't want white. We want really a very light blue. Okay, but I want it modeled like this, see, and thicker. Okay, so I'll take that and I'll come right in where I want that water line, and I'm going to pull that right along that water line there. Wipe my knife a bit, pull in some more heavy color. We'll pull some of that in. I wipe the knife because I pick up a lot of the medium white, and I want this modeling color coming in here. And I'll push some of that in there. Now I can wipe my knife and push this back up a bit to create some more like little waves back here. Wipe the knife anytime you want to burnish it, because you're picking up color. And if you keep picking it up and pushing it back, you're going to lighten up that back too much. So I can push it back a bit to get a little more color. Wipe the knife, burnish it in a bit to get some of that little movements of those waves and stuff like that back there. And, you know, how much you do is up to you. I can reach over and actually put in a little bit of dark here too if I want to soften it, or go back over with my other lighter brush to soften that too as well. Now, let's go over, let's grab some medium white. Let's grab some white, about 1-to-1 here, model that up here using just the tip of the knife here, right? And let's just put on some heavy, a little bit of heavier. These are the rolling little waves there, right? Just run your knife. Run your knife here. Don't line them up exactly. Just kind of run your knife here and get some of that interest that's right there. And I let what happens happen there, and it'll look like waves if you don't do too heavy. So that's a little bit heavy there. So I'll run the knife. There's one of my dog's, Kelly's, hair there. That adds extra interest, your Labrador's hair in your painting. We grab a little bit, roll the knife down to get a wider wave, up onto the edge here to get a thinner wave, run some of it back, further back, and you'll get those nice waves. Now, there's a shadow line right along there. I don't always like to add that. We could add a little bit of that maybe right in here. Let's take a little bit, I'll put a little bit of the burnt sienna in that. You get this a little violet, a little burnt sienna, here. Let's just run that right along that edge there. So, and you see, I do everything with not going back and forth and overworking it too many times. We're just kind of giving it a quick go through. I can soften it lightly. That works pretty good. I might put a little bit more. Let's go back to the medium blue, maybe a touch of that white right back here. Another little line right back there, just to take it a little further back. Right in there like that. That takes just a little more wave action into it here. That looks pretty good. So you can develop that. You could, pick up some more white and just come in here and tap, some extra whites to make it look like waves that are pulling out. If you wanted to, you could take and I like to do it with a big brush too, but you could take your big brush, let's just add a little extender here to it, and you can pull out. So you slide along this and pull out this way, and it'll pull the waves into the beach a little bit, soften it with a pull across, and you get some nice lines. Sometimes, like what I've done, you can see a little bit of it there, is I'll take just a knife on edge, right like this, right on the edge, and just pull like that, and create like a little wave line right in here too, just like that, which looks really nice. There, just an idea of a little wave line. So all kinds of stuff. You're using that knife on the edge and then on the flat. And then what really makes it slide, of course, is that open medium and the thickness of the paint. Thick paint sticks to thinner paint. Okay, that's basically the rule. All right. So we have that. We could go up into the sky. We could take some of this. This would make nice clouds. With a little bit of that oak medium. We could, I like that little bit of a cloud bank right in there. A soft little color of the clouds there. So that looks kind of neat. A little more light's coming from the left, from the right. So the lighter clouds would be up here, a little bit descending down through there would be kind of neat. Here, there's a lot of empty sky up there, which I really do like because it doesn't put too much into the, in too much here. It's going to keep the eye in here. So I'll put some up there, but I'm just going to pull through and soften those marks a bit, just like this. And that just softens them out ever so little and gives me just a tiny bit of interest. I do like that kind of shadow, foggy shadow little bit right there. We might just lighten up right here just a bit and just add a bit more of a cloud right across like that. That's kind of interesting because this is going to put an interest area. What I like is here's going to be our main interest area. Here's going to be that interest area over there. Now, before I lighten up the beach or do anything else, I want to start establishing some of those darks because those are really important. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when you see me do seascapes and stuff from when I don't have a reference photo or anything like that, the very first thing I do is come through and establish darks. Transparent darks. Those are very important. Here I have a photo. I know pretty much where I'm going to go. This is a very dark area here, and it's a color I love to use all the time. It is my burnt sienna, a little blue and a little violet. Nice dark. I won't mix it up too much. I'm going to thin it out with some extender, and I'm going to move that right in here, and I'm going to keep this really kind of transparent and move the lines around like this, and I'll come close. I'm not going to copy it because that's a little too blue. So let's get and I love to model this. So you get all these other colors and stuff coming out of here. So these are going to be areas of our dark here that we see, and it's going to advance. It's really going to advance, right? And then I'll bring a little bit of it down through here. Let's just bring some of that down. This is where I love to use my paper towel too. To create these real quick You know, some of the real quick bushes, you know, reeds, beach stuff. You know, I love this. You know, and you know, I love scenes like this. I mean, I grew up on the Oregon coast as a boy, and no matter how many times I went down to the beach, you know, and my parents would pull into the parking lot, and then we'd run through the dunes and out into the beach. And I always remember, you know, running through something like this and seeing all the bushes. And then your first view of the ocean was always really exciting. I loved those times. Let's take some of this right along this edge right there. So we'll make those little beach. And you can make these, you know, these pull-up marks here really easy by, you know, pulling up with your brush, with a nice soft brush. That'll give you these little beach reeds really easy. That's what we want to put in. I could also use my paper towel, which you see me do when in the westerns, right? This is basically looks a lot like the westerns, right? That I do, right? So yeah, those all work there too. Now this all here is working great. I could use a little more dark, I think, right here, a little more cool, a little more dark, maybe just a bit of extender, not quite as much as extender. Let's put a little more dark right in here to get that nice, really give that nice depth right in there, right? In the photo, it's a little darker. I'm kind of afraid to go that dark. We'll see. We'll just blur that out there like that, okay? And my beach could go a little lighter, warmer. So I'll come back over here. This is still wet because I added a little of that open medium in it. So I want my beach a little lighter and warmer right along there. So I'll add a few little touches of that, I think. Pull that along. I love to knife paint and do this stuff really quickly, you know. So let's put a little bit of that warmth right along in here. Pull up into that sand and stuff in there, right? Now we'll grab some of these blues, violets, right? Some of this. Let's push some of that in here and some of this warmth. And this is where I really like the open medium and stuff here. Let's start working some of this together. And a lot of times in a painting like this, you'll see me use my paint scraper, right? And I'll scrape together like this to create some of those different looks. Grab some of this cool color here, right up in there like that, right? And I just love fast painting like this. Yeah. This is, you know, so many people say, oh, I got to learn to get more casual. Well, so did I, and this is how I did it, was I'd sit down and I'd paint these things. Now, we're going to create this little edge here. We'll pull down like that, create that edge, that nice paint scraper. That's a 2-inch paint scraper, just a bit big here. Let's put a little light right with that and create that edge right there. Pull it at that angle, little thicker paint, pull it at that angle, right? And that'll create that little dune edge there, right here. Add a little more paint there. That's pretty good. Let some of this will fade down, maybe a little burnt sienna into some of this. Get some of these colors, model it up, right? And just pull some of that. It'll look like little sand going into shadow and stuff there. That works. I'll look for some of that out here like that. Some of this color maybe here. Just jetting out in there. This is also really good color. Maybe a little yellow in with this. Right down in here. Let's get that. So I'm looking at the basics of the color. A little open medium, a little thicker. And it kind of slopes this way, so I'll pull this way. And it needs a little more light, so I'll slide into just a little light. Maybe give it a little light edge. pull through. This is what I like to call this is impressionistic kind of painting here, right? So we're capturing the kind of the look. I'm not interested in capturing it exactly. Does that make sense? Dirty brush, what we've used before. You know, a lot of knife painters will just go ahead and keep using the knife, but I love some of the soft touches that the brush can add, so I can play them back and forth. All right, so now let's come in here. A little thinner. Shadows are thinner. So let's go blue, some red violet here. We'll look at that. It's a little bit more on the blue side. And some extender here. And grayed down a bit. So we gray it down with a touch of the burnt sienna. See how that grays that down? So that's not too bad, but we have some some lighter blues in there. We'll add that. But let's come right in here, pull that shadow right there. And right up through here, right up by the tip here of this, blur that right up into that edge there. That's pretty nice. And we'll pull some of this out here. And the thing is, don't paint it too much, guys. You'll lose that original color of that expression of color. But these types of paintings, you know, when you do these are just a lot of fun. We're not quite, almost getting to a half an hour, you know. They're really fun. You know how many years, and this is the fun thing, how many years it took me to get this casual to do something like this. It did take a while. Now, this is a receding edge. This is my main cast shadow. That's a receding edge there. And so I can gray this down, lighten it up in my brush, and give that receding little line there, just like that. Let's push some of this color into some of this bank, and that will make it look like it has a little more going on there. A little bit, maybe, you know, we get a little reflected blue into some of that. So we'll go just a touch more blue, blue, violet here. And just a light little color. Yeah, that could go a little bit lighter. Sometimes go into a different knife or a smaller brush, but I love big brush painting like this. And I let what happens happen. So we get a little more color. Now, I can blend that out or soften that out. I can pull, you know, some colors, you know, through and soften some of that out, some of that whole movement out like that if I wanted to. You know, that's up to you. You know, over here, which is really kind of important, is this little bit of grayness that's over here, or yellow grayness and blue tone color back up over there. It's really kind of important because it recedes this and shoves this little hill kind of area right here forward. So we'll just put in the look of some bushes and stuff there, right? Little reeds, little beech reeds and stuff right there. And that'll shove the hill a little farther forward. Let's add just a few marks of those colors right up here. Right, here we go. Just like that. That looks pretty good. I think I really want, so I like this. I want to maybe pop off that light. So I'm going to go off script here a little bit, maybe a little bit more of this kind of grayed light right in here. Just a bit more. Right in here like that. Just with my thicker knife. And so you see, I just pick up that bead and I let this just slide over the surface here. It won't do it evenly. And that's what gives you these highs and lows, like stuff is going on there. Let's just move some of this out so you see it just kind of edging right in there like that. All right, maybe a few, this is the kind of stuff I love to do, little few marks like this. You see me in other landscapes and everything, you see me talk about these. These are the little sparks that I like to give, which gives a little more life and energy. And I use just a little paint and just the edge of the knife just kind of pop it around a bit here and get some of those little sparks of light. I like that through there. And maybe I'll wipe the knife here, pull this down just a bit. And if I pull hard, I'll pick up a little bit of a softer light as I reveal some of the some of the original color of the board. But I'll pull some of this down just a bit here. Just create little lights, especially if that's my center of interest, right? And so a little more dark. This is still wet over there. Let's get that other little bit of dark right in there. That's kind of important. Kind of important little one there. A little bit of light. Some of that violet. Look at your tones. A little bit of light right here. Push up, pull that up. See, that just adds a little more light. Like the light hits here, jumps over the shadow, hits a little bit more. Kind of like what you see right there, right? And yeah, just a little bit. Let's go a little more light yellow, just white with a little bit of our medium white and a tiny bit of yellow. Let's increase our light right here. Just one more time. Here into that beach. Get that nice warmth, maybe a little more light yet. I want to pop in a little more light, like right in here. It's hitting right in there. Here. There we go. Maybe a bit of that hits right up over here. You see a bit of it right in there, so the light's coming through onto this side. And it's definitely lighter there and warmer than what it is over here, cooler. That's the important part. Maybe some of this, though, a little medium white and white, a little open medium. And so you get this kind of gentle feeling here, so I can swoop and slope some of this just ever so slightly here. Right like that. So I give it just a little bit of a slope there. And I like that. See, and if I'm putting on my colors thick, I'll get this granulation or this unevenness. See all this unevenness that comes from the different consistencies of your paint. If you're painting too thin, you won't get those. Those only come from thicker paint, okay? Thicker paint. And then what is really making it slide along the surface is that open medium. That's what open medium does. It's going to give a little transparency, give you a longer working time. I can soften into that if I want, or I can just leave it like I'm going to. I'm going to add a few little sparks in there. Just a few little sparks into those bushes there. And I like that. I like everything about that. Maybe I do like this little dark that shows up here into the corner. So let's just redefine that a little blue, a little bit more stuff. Maybe that's another little bush or something right in there. And I like that. And I don't think, you could do some falling rain or something like that, but that's kind of it's an impressionistic look, right? It's an impressionistic look. 34 minutes, not quite under 30 minutes, but gives you a nice impressionistic look of that. And see, I already built some of these frames that I wanted. See if that would look in there. See, that's going to be kind of nice. I might lighten up the outside edge of this frame and let that dark pull you in here. Also, a light frame would probably look pretty good as well. But yeah, that looks pretty nice. There's, this area right in here. I could flatten this out. See, this is still wet because I added all that open medium there. So I could flatten some of this movement out that way to give more movement into the ocean here. I could do that. Just pull that in, pull that like that. That looks pretty good. But I I love the impressionism that comes from my knife, so I don't want to do too much of that stuff because that's smoothing it out. And the movement and the impressionism from your knife is really kind of nice. So there you go. There's a real quick one. Isn't that kind of fun? And I'm going to do it with, matter of fact, we're going to do it in another video here in about 10 minutes. another one with the landscape, setting the mountains back there, setting depth. And then I'm going to do this with florals and stuff like that as well, so you can see that. So yeah, so I'll probably put the darker frame here, but I'll probably put a little bit of light around it and stuff. But that will just draw you in, I think. When it's all done, it'll help draw you in. It might. So when I do that with this frame, so I built this frame, and then I just took basically the colors that I use here was burnt sienna and blue, and with some sealer, and I just wiped it over the frame, and it creates this kind of look almost like it's stained, but it's not. It's wood, but I didn't stain it. I just created this look to it, and then I can do a second coat, a glazing coat. I'm going to show you guys some of this in framing videos. We'll do a glazing coat, a softening coat. I'll show you how you do a reverse antiquing of it, and just some fun stuff that we'll do. But yeah, so I like that. I'll watch this one bit of the beach here. I might just lighten it up a little bit more. I want that light coming in there, right? And I do like that look of the light wave line there too. So you can add that. So if you even if you've lost your dark, you just take a little bit of your dark and you move it back in through here, and you'll create that wave line again. So that back and forth. But a lot of fun, okay? And so try that. You can turn it sideways and run some more dunes and do all different kinds of stuff. Work on those consistencies. Start out thin, work thicker. So start out with that extender, put that on, and then the clouds are really easy to add when the paint of the clouds is thicker than the paint that you put down here. The background back here is really easy to recede back if it is nice and thin, and then as you rub that horizon line, they'll come together, okay? All really good techniques. Let's go paint some landscapes. We'll go paint some flowers. I'll do some birds. I'll do a quick western. Just fun little small paintings like this. And we'll have some fun in the studio between now and the holidays. So if you got a few minutes, and you know, I know everyone gets busy during the holidays, but these are real good things, these boards and stuff, to leave at your studio, you know, by your easel. And if you got 30 minutes to an hour of free time, sit down and crank one out. If it doesn't work, wipe it off. Do it again. But it'll help you get that casualness to your painting, okay? All right, guys. Don't forget to click like on this thing. Please click like on the videos. You know, we try to show you as much as we can. You can just take a couple minutes, click like. Those likes are really important to the algorithm of YouTube, okay? So click like on there for us. Subscribe if you can to the channel. Support us through memberships too if you want. That would be a great help, okay? Thanks very much, guys. Let's go do another one. See you then.